So your daughter or granddaughter?
Yeah. All right.
Oh.
We had a double date Friday night.
Did you guys really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
we ran into
Christina, do you have a copy of that report, Christina?
Hey, Bishop, were you able to print out the outline that Christina had sent through?
Well, Mayor, were you?
Yeah, it's in there.
Oh, she got a new packet.
That's in there already. Hey, Joan.
Okay, Dr. William. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you.
I got your email later.
I did, yeah.
Okay. Mayor Feinstein, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Bishop, would you call the roll?
Sure. This is the Picton Park Commission meeting, Tuesday, 9/20. And Commissioner Sach. Here. Commissioner Salanitro. Here. Commissioner Feinstein.
Here.
Commissioner Tilla. Absent. And Commissioner French.
Here.
Commissioner Carvin.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, thanks everybody for coming this evening. We have a packed agenda. One thing I'd like to do in terms of the agenda, we have a presentation on the automated parking. I know that's uppermost in most people's minds, so if everybody's agreeable, I'm going to move that up first just after comments from the public. So that'll be our fifth item rather than our ninth item this evening. But we have several minutes of meetings. Did anybody have comments on the July 19th, the August 16th, or the special meeting July 26th?
I can't remember back that far.
I had some
That's why we
typos.
did
I'll
that.
give it to Bishop afterwards. It's
Typos?
just,
Wonderful.
nothing substantive.
Beautiful.
I have to abstain on the August one I wasn't.
Excellent. Okay, let's take comments from the public.
You are?
Yeah, Goldie, I want to go straight to you. I mean,
We vote.
I know everybody at home's here to...
If I heard you first, then I could answer.
Exactly.
I can't
You wanna-
I
answer.
make a
wanna have
motion to approve the minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
Right.
All right.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Well,
Any second?
I'm just going to say
Oh, sorry, Goldie, I
second.
apologize. One second.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Yeah.
Any opposed?
Abstain on the August meeting.
Abstain.
On the
Okay.
August meeting.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sorry, Goldie. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I just feel that if I don't hear you, then I don't know if I should comment or not. And I'm not hearing you because we're going first. But the only thing I have on my agenda is that I believe that we should have more concerts under the pavilion. That is the most beautiful park. It is a historic park, and we need more concerts under there. If we can get a lot of bands from around the area, Portchester, Rybrook, Rytown, Mamaroneck, and everything, to come, we should have them. I also feel that, the other part is for Joni, I feel that Crawford Park should be equal to Oakland Beach. And I know Oakland Beach is better, and it's on the National Register of Historic Places and the New York State Register. But Crawford Park is an important park. I go there all the time. I try as best I can to get to Oakland Beach. It gets very crowded at sometimes when I have to go, and especially when some of the concerts are on, I haven't been able to get there. But please, whatever you can do to bring the people in, except for the weather, which is so horrible. It's so horrible, it's cutting back on all the parks and all the money that we need to run the parks. I got a feeling that it's being brought up by NASA and all these spaceships going up into the heavens, because if you go to the planetarium, you learn that the Earth sits in an airless space. Every time they go up, they rock the Earth and they leave holes in the ozone layer. And when the Columbia came back and exploded, the Earth really rocked. And from that time on, the weather has been absolutely crazy. So unless government gets to government and tells them, please, look what you're doing to us. You're killing us. And we're the ones that are suffering, all of us, and the parks, because of the weather. It doesn't make sense. Sorry.
Thank you, Goldie, and I agree, we can never have too many concerts at the park. Thank you for
We
that.
need more concerts,
I agree.
yes.
Other comments from the public? Okay. Great, then without further ado, we'll go to the, Susan, are you okay if we put this, yep. Great, we'll go ahead with the automated parking update, presentation.
We'll see if our liaison wants. No, you okay? Okay.
I assume we're there. I think Bishop said we're all in concert, so.
Hang it in there.
Just the real one.
I got an election over there. See how that goes.
All right. All right. My name is Dan Matheson, so from the Rye-Town Park Advisory Committee for the City of Rye. And so we've been investigating the automated parking, and Commissioner Salanitro hosted a meeting back in August, and the results of that, where we attempted to get consensus around the savings and the revenue projections. So Commissioner Salanitro led the call. Paul and I from the City of Rye were on the call, as well as Fred and Terry and some other staffers as well. So we had a good group, and we went through item by item. Within automation, there's basically two categories. You have your staff savings, and then you have the potential revenue increases. So the first two lines on this were the potential for staff savings. So we were exploring a fully automated proposal. So this would mean no cashier at all for the parking, which would be approximately a $28,000 savings. We're exploring reducing the beach cashiers from 2 per booth to 1. That could potentially be done with or without automation, but that would be a $20,000 savings. The consensus we came to on the amount that you could charge for off-season parking was $15,000, and then the big item, which is the most controversial, improved collection due to controls. Now, we had a lot of debate on this one. It's obviously not a science, in coming up with that number, and the question is just is how much slippage is being experienced by the park. We had come in originally with a higher number. The staff, suggested a lower number. We ended up, Commissioner Salanitro in his wisdom picked 8%, and which off the last 4 years' average revenue came to $56,000. To do the core software, there's also additional software fees. You have to get the cards. There's some estimated maintenance. You save $12,000 in the current software costs. When you totaled all that up, it ended up to an $18,000 additional cost. And so totaling all that up, the estimated annual savings or revenue gains would be $101,000. That went against a cost which, after the full proposal came in a bit higher. Initially we had a lower number as it got spec'd out. With the full proposal, it ended up being about $155,000 without installation, and then the estimate by the staff and by Commissioner Salanitro was $95,000 for the installation work, which brings it to $250,000 all in. Now it's $100,000 in gains, $250,000 outlay. So that's a 2.5-year estimated payback. In most situations, we would say an estimated a capital project that pays back in 2.5 years is a home run. But there is, but I do have to say there is dispute around these numbers. If it was an undisputed 2.5-year payback, I think everybody would think it was a no-brainer to do it. But on all of these numbers, while these were consensus numbers, they were achieved by sort of taking the midpoint of fairly varying numbers. And so, so there was, I would say it's not, while these are sort of midpoint-ish numbers, and these are the numbers that we walked out agreeing to in the meeting, I would say that there is a dispute. So the question that we then explored was, does it make sense to spend $250,000, which is obviously a lot of capital, in a situation where where there are a lot of other potential capital projects, when you may or may not achieve a 2.5-year payback. I mean, the payback could be faster. It could be 1.5 years. It could be 3 years. It could be 5 years. But it's an unknown, and there's some noise in it. So we started looking at the question of, given the reality of the environment and given the lack of support from the staff, which would have to implement the proposal, given the question about whether or not these numbers would hold up, we started exploring the question of, does it make sense could we achieve a lot of the gains in accountability without doing automation? Automation is, you have both. You're saving staff. You're also getting accountability. So the question was, can we get accountability without and push aside the staff savings and basically focus on improving collections? We've done some research around that, and we think we can with a much smaller outlay. An outlay of somewhere in the $30,000 to $40,000 range, and Paula will walk through those numbers. We think we can come up with a system that's pretty rock solid and would realize the improved collection part of the number, at a very small outlay, and almost certainly pay back within the first season, probably within potentially within a month or two. So we think, whereas this one is, this one may be good, it may not be good. It's clearly not a no-brainer. It's something that it could be good or it could not be good. We think that putting in proper accountability procedures, which are cheap and easy, are clearly a no-brainer and are something you have to do. And I saw the need for accountability procedures just this weekend. On Sunday, I took my kids with my brother, and I took our kids to Ward Pound Ridge Reservation, which is a Westchester County park. And when you pull in, it's $8 to park. It's $4 if you have a Westchester County pass. I gave my $8. The girl gave me a receipt. You have to put the receipt on the dash there. They give you a numbered receipt. As I was starting to pull out, I looked at the receipt, and it said $4. It said Westchester County Pass, $4 on the receipt. I rolled back down the window. I said, I paid $8. I didn't have a Westchester County Pass. And she said, oh, I gave you the wrong one. And she said, she took back the receipt out of my hands and gave me an $8 receipt. I drove into the park. I parked the car. I asked my brother. I said to him, hey, let me see your receipt. And I walked over to his car. He also had a $4 receipt on his dash. I said, do you have a Westchester County Pass? He said, no. So right there, somebody had pocketed $8. They don't scan the card. They don't, if you have the pass, they don't scan it. They just look at it. This happens all the time. It happens everywhere. So while we're saying you can step back on automation, you can't step back on accountability when this stuff is so easy to solve. You issue people a card, they have to swipe the card to get the discount, and that kind of nonsense just goes away. Now, I did call Westchester County, by the way, and report it, but I doubt anything will come of that. But that said, so we'd like to walk through sort of our accountability suggestions, which I guess are not a formal proposal yet at this point, but we have some suggestions, and Paula from the RI Finance Committee is going to walk through those.
Thanks very much. If you look at your pack, there's in the back of your pack, I think, Paula and Dan sent through a summary of what they're going to talk about. Yeah, right here.
Good.
Late this afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Paula Schaefer from the RI Finance Group. Just to be clear, the RI Citizens Advisory Committee is looking at this proposal, but this is a proposal for this reduced system, this barrier gate system. That is something that staff has suggested as an alternative, and we took a look at that. They've gotten one bid, which I think is in your packet tonight, from Eastco, and that is generated by staff, and we're enthusiastic about trying to work with them on a system like this. As the Citizens Advisory Committee, we're recommending that we further explore the implementation of this barrier gate system similar to the one that was described in this Eastco proposal. The gate would be at the main entrance to the park. They'd be wooden gates, and they would integrate with our existing computer hardware and software, is what we understand. And that's a big factor that would need to be confirmed. But, there are scanners at the park now. They can scan the permit cards and reflect the correct rates for people. So the East Coast proposal, they have two arms right on the side of the parking kiosks. And again, the cars entering the park every day would be counted with a system like this. And the system would record the type of customer that came in and the appropriate fee for that. The hard cost for this system is estimated to be about $17,000. And again, this is just an East Coast proposal. There hasn't been an RFP issued or any kind of formal process. And so $17,000 or so for the hardware and an additional estimate of $12,000 to install the system. So about $30,000 to put in this reduced system. And I think what's important, as Dan said, if you're not comfortable that there are increased revenue opportunities at the park from charging all year round or reduced headcount possibilities. We've had a lot of discussion with Rye-Town Park staff about whether or not you can, with automation, reduce staff. They don't believe you can. And I think that if what you want is a system that is purely going to be for financial and revenue control purposes, this simplified system, if you have the right controls and procedures in place to go along with it, we think could be adequate. So that's what we want to talk about. In order for a system like this, you just can't put the arms in and walk away, right? There are a number of things, and I've outlined them here, that we think are critical elements that have to be implemented along with this system. And the first thing is that it's got to work with our existing hardware and software, and you've got to be able to have daily reconciliations. So you're counting the cars, but then there have to be reports printed out from your IUG system that allows you every day to reconcile the type of cars, the revenue payers that came in, to the number of cars that came in. And this sort of has to be done independently. This is going to be about having one person, maybe somebody from security, saying, this is how many cars came in. And independently, Terry or whoever's in charge of the cashiers is doing the reconciliation and comes up with the number of how many cars do we think came in, right? And independently, somebody needs to match those numbers every day as a sort of reconciliation. And you need to work that out before you put this system in. How is this going to work? And we think that that's really critical. As Dan said, I think it's also very important that we have scannable cards for this system wherever possible. So we're taking the discretion of what type of revenue payer this is out of the hands of the cashier in the booth. You have a scannable card for the permits, which you already do, and the scanner is there now. It's scanning the permits now. You would need to have resident cards, which I understand has been tried at the park 2 years ago and was not very successful. The residents were kind of resistant to that. But I think that the commission would have to understand and staff would have to understand that it's not unusual to require residents to have cards if they're going to get that reduced fee. And it's an important control feature of this system to have scannable resident cards. Shouldn't charge residents for them. They should get them free of charge, but they should get those cards. And then there would be cards for seniors. There would be cards for employees of both the park and Seaside Johnny's. So you can scan the card. It's not up to the operator, the cashier, to determine how much they should pay. Another critical element, credit cards. We understood at the beginning of this season that credit cards would be taken at the park, and we thought that was a very important control feature. Take cash out of the system to a large extent, and any question of slippage, it's going to start to go away. Take cash out of the system. And the problem, we're told, is that you can't do this through a wireless connection, which is what we have at the park. And we find that difficult to believe, given that, you ride around in a New York City taxi, you give them your credit card. It works in a taxi. The only thing they take on airplanes is a credit card, right? And we can't get it to work at the park. So we actually made some calls, and we talked to a group called First Data, which does the city Citibank's credit card processing, and they say that this is, to them, a no-brainer, that you should just be able to do this wireless. Because what we understand is that if you did have to put the hard lines in to the booths, either at the beach or at the parking, it's very expensive to run the conduits, to run the lines, but we just don't think it needs to be done. And
Well,
we'd
we're
like
told the banks won't accept
well,
this.
but isn't TD Bank who the depository bank is? And Citi's saying TD does it all the time, these First Data guys. So, I mean, we're not saying, we just say we think it's worthy of further exploration because having credit cards accepted is going to be a very important control, and we think that it's something that we should do. Another important thing,
Can I just ask you a question on the scannable cards? What happens if I have a scannable card and I give it to Joan? Is there any way to...
Well, I think if you have a resident card, I think similar to the way the permits work, once you get your card, your picture's in there, and so, but you're saying no, I mean, I don't know, but...
Well, if the people come to the park to allow their picture to be taken, the answer is yes.
They would need to.
The idea is they would have to come where we have a camera attached to our computer system.
Yes, and that's, I mean, it's a burden. Yes, it is a burden on the residents, but if you're giving the cards away free and you have like a fun day at the park and the kids can come and get a balloon and you get your picture taken and you get your card, right? Is it really that big a deal? And it's going to be an important part of doing these reconciliations if you're scanning your card and it's telling you this is a resident, they pay $8, not $12, whatever. So another, is that Commissioner Carvin? Okay. Another important thing, post a sign, a big sign. If you don't get a receipt for the correct amount, your next visit to the park is free. Sorry, I need to snap. So you've got a big sign up, you need a receipt. And the procedure should be that the gate doesn't go up unless the driver takes their receipt. And I think that's important. I mean, that's a very common control to put in place. It's simple, but it works. Sorry. Right now, senior staff, and really this is a great idea, and I've seen it work, and it really works well. They're watching the booths through security cameras on their laptops, and they should continue doing that. That's a great thing, and that should be continued. At the beach entrance, we haven't really talked about that, but in talking to staff and spending some time on this, we're not proposing that you put turnstiles or barriers in for the beach entrances. That's really kind of difficult at this point, but if you use numbered bands and even color-coded bands, it's easier to do a reconciliation every day. Excuse me. And I think that that's what we should try and do, is these numbered, color-coded bands for the different types of fee classes, like seniors, permit holders, residents. Again, you're using your card and you're scanning. And then finally, at a prior commission meeting, the suggestion was made that we implement some spot audits conducted by citizens groups, and we're happy to participate in that. We think that's a great control and a great idea, so that would be the final thing that we would recommend. So in terms of next steps here, we'd recommend implementing a formal RFP process for the barrier gate system, working with IUG up front and the chosen vendor to design the reports and the reconciliations that we would do, and draft up the procedures manual in advance of putting the system in. Talk to the banks to talk about these credit card payments wirelessly, and then install the gates prior to season opening. And then obviously getting scannable cards in the hands of everybody who's going to try and use the park is important. And again, I mean, staff, I think if staff is in favor of this proposal, we are happy to work with them on it. I think it really can accomplish a lot if what we're trying to do is improve revenue control at the park. And I think it's very important that whatever system is put in is something that staff is in favor of and engaged in, and that's going to increase the chance of success dramatically. So I think it's very important. So we're happy to work with them.
Well, first of all, I want to... Pardon me.
Yes.
Hey, it's catchy. Yeah, exactly. I want to thank Dan and Paul for all the hard work you put into this. I can't thank you enough. That was a wonderful presentation. I know other people on your commission as well. I want to thank them for taking time out of your busy schedules to do this. So let me open it up to the commission for questions and comments.
Well, I'd like to start and also, thank the group for meeting. I think we flushed out a lot of good ideas, and I think this is a great synopsis of what we took a few hours discussing. And I especially applaud the fact that there's a willingness of the citizens group to help with the audit, spot checking, because I think that's important. What we did recognize through the process is, and we learned a lot, for a small operation, even though it's $1 million operation, it's considered small in many standards. We could probably do a lot of this with less of a capital expense, and focusing on the fact that there are so many other needs in the park. We have also recognized that the controls that are in place today and the controls that have developed over the past few years have made an extraordinary large difference in the way we do business. So doing better is what I think the focus of the discussion that we had, and finding a way to accomplish that is where I think we're all on the same page. At least I am as a commission member. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, I would just say, go to a Yankee game. They're not putting in all this infrastructure. They've got lots around the stadium. They realize they have 80 home dates. We really are just a 3-month operation. They've got handheld computers. You got to put your receipt in the window. They have the right controls in place. So I think a hybrid approach is exactly the way to go. I'm not a big fan of the resident card, but I think if you do it how we do our monthly commuter pass process, where you mail a letter to everybody, they have to go online to opt in. That application is then verified by city staff. Then you qualify. I think that type of opt-in through technology beforehand would alleviate a lot of concerns. The application that was sent out earlier in the year was a big plus. So I think there are ways that we can actually accelerate some of the resident signups. So yeah, whether it's the right technology, in terms of the right infrastructure, it sounds like it is if you guys have vetted it.
I think so.
Yeah. I would like more people, though, rather than cash at the beach, to use their credit card, as you said, or use their resident pass, and take some of that out of the system. Because we did get issues about, even on fireworks night, give me $2, or where's your $2, and that type of thing. I went to Harbor Island, same thing. Cash, didn't get a receipt, and you said it's up at the county parks as well. So, this is...
For fireworks, one of the things you really might consider is, if you get these controls in place at the parking gate, is that you just charge a little more at the parking gate and don't charge to go to the beach, because to control that volume of people in that short a period of time, I don't know how staff does that, but you might consider just trying to do it a different way.
So is the full committee on board with this type of approach?
Thoughtful and realistic approach to the situation that we have here. It sounds like that automated parking is probably still option A, but under the conditions that you described, where the rubber meets the road, you need the people that are going to be implementing it on board, and if that's not the case, then you've moved on to something else. I am concerned by, Dan, the situation you referenced at Ward Pound Ridge, and I guess that is not as much of a problem or an issue if you do the automated parking. If you do the, I don't want to call it watered down version, but if you do the modified version that Paula, you described, in order to prevent something like that from happening, I guess that's why you need the ID cards that you normally wouldn't need under the automated parking option. So I agree, Doug, that I'm not really a big fan of those either, but if we're not going to do automated parking, then, well, we need the cards to do this system. So I think we're just going to have to live with that if we go forward with it. So again, I think you did a great ham and egg presentation there, and you have been a great team, and thank you to everyone else that worked with you. Thank you, Benny, also for shepherding this through.
My pleasure.